Warning: the following content is a casual gamer's review. Contains saltiness, bad plays and excuses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Path of Exile. A beautiful game where you can go from this to this
Oh, fuck! Guys, it is officially done level 100.
Oh, fuck!
What just happened to me? Oh, my bad. Oh, I'm stunned. And I'm dead. I'm fucking dead. There, 2 hits. Now I'm dead. Okay.
No fucking way.
But don't you worry, Fresh Exile, the game is simple. You start out by making your character, which can arguably be the hardest part of the game. And then you proceed to kill enemies. How do you kill them? Well, left click. Wanna get stronger? That's easy, just level up and get better gear. Gearing up is easy as well. You can get drops or buy new gear from the vendors or other players. How? Well, with gold or other currency. What is currency actually? Well, first, you have your Orb of Transmutation, which upgrades a normal item into a magic item with 1 modifier. Then you have a Orb of Augmentation, which augments a magic item with a new random modifier. Orb of Alchemy, which upgrades a normal item into a rare item with which upgrades a magic item into a random modifier and adding a 1 modifier augments a rare item. There's a divine modifier, which be careful, there's also all of these. Keep them, which basically corrupts an item. Do not use these at all. Keep them for chance items cannot be upgrades in any way, shape, or form, which creates a mirrored cosmic destroys or bleed that with support gem socket at all. Support gem socket to a skill gem with 3 support gem socket to a skill gem with 4 skill gem with quality which improves armor, flex stats, or armor, quality of a socket to a martial weapon or armor, and then of course a scroll of wisdom, which helps you to identify an item. Well, I hope you got all of that because it's gonna be important. And don't worry, there's much more currency than just this. Let's also not forget about skills. To make your skills stronger, you simply need to level them up, increase their quality, and socket good support gems. And then use these synergies. And all it takes is like 100 hours of game time. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Well, I hope I didn't scare you, because quite honestly, this game is fun. There's a lot to do, and there will be even more to do. And I know it seems terrifying or even overwhelming at the beginning, but hey, there is a simple solution, because if you're like me and you don't really have like 16 hours a day to play Path of Exile, then simply just create a character, one that seems interesting to you. Not melee. Definitely do not pick melee. Find a build online and you'll be fine. As you might have figured out by now, I am a casual gamer. I got 2 jobs and not really much time to spend on video games. So far I got like 140 hours of playtime on Steam, and about 40 of those were AFK, so I am definitely no authority on this game by any means. But yeah, when I do play video games, I do love ARPGs. Like Diablo 2 was my first, then there was Titan Quest, Diablo 3, some maybe not as well known, like Adventures of Van Helsing, and of course Path of Exile 1. And yeah, after watching the trailers and the initial gameplay for Path of Exile 2, I was really excited. So I bought the supporter pack, and I can tell you that Path of Exile 2 is great. It's amazing, but it can be absolutely ruthless. Let's talk about dodge roll. The mechanic is fun, except for the times that it isn't. The game in and of itself is really difficult, And yes, like you have a feeling of accomplishment after defeating a boss, but mainly in the beginning of the game. Afterwards, it's more of a sense of relief, because there is a difference between rewarding difficulty and punishing difficulty. Sometimes the game just feels a way too difficult for what you actually get out of it. Like, I don't remember a time where I actually got like a significant drop out of a boss. There's a boss that I died like 19 times on, mainly because I'm stupid, but yeah. And the drop, like I ended up disenchanting every single item I got out of that boss. Didn't feel great. And dodge roll is a great mechanic in my opinion. Like, you need to play tactical, which I personally like. You can get out of being cornered, which is after the update. Originally you couldn't just roll through the enemies. Now you somewhat can, but it still doesn't feel completely great. Like, before you couldn't roll through a boss's arm, for instance, like in Act 2, in the Titan Grotto, there's Zelmarath, you know, the Colossus, which is now possible after the update, which is a little bit weird. You can also roll through the ice wall in Act 1, you know, with the final boss. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But what I don't personally like is that you can still take damage whilst rolling. You can still die while rolling. That's even with like perfect timing. It can get really frustrating. If you time the roll perfectly and you don't get hit, great. Time the roll perfectly, you get hit, it's mainly because the bosses have a fucking aimbot. I'm not even kidding. Just look at this.
Oh, fuck!
And yeah, it can get really frustrating because for me personally, when you look at this is what I see as a casual player. I see them rolling, so to me, the hitbox is slanted. And I know that it's not the way that is. The hitbox always stays like this. It just doesn't feel great. You know, it feels like there's the tiniest overlap and suddenly half of my health is gone. Here, on the other hand, this I don't understand. Like, okay, the only explanation is that the area of effect of that attack is way too big for what's shown on screen. So this I do not like. When it comes to dodge rolling, I personally, I wouldn't like a complete immunity, but at least some sort of a damage reduction during the roll. Even if it is supposed to be a part of the skill tree, I know there's higher armor, higher evasion rating, whatever, if you rolled or dodge rolled recently, but it doesn't feel like it's doing anything during the roll, which is pretty much your only way to get out of like death's way. I think there still needs to be a little adjustment made to that. And yeah, the difficulty in this game is really, really steep. The damage drop-off is massive, absolutely massive. In Act 1, playing my first character, the mercenary, I had no problems. No problems, I killed everything, even though it might have took like a little bit longer. It's not even just going through acts, it's like from one area to another. Yes, the monster level increases, but it feels like your damage just drops off massively if you're not playing like minions or something that's absolutely broken. And the difference between acts is even worse. Like, again, my mercenary, when I got to end of Act 1, you know, the last boss, I died once because I didn't know the mechanics. After I like learned them, it was okay. But once I got to Act 2, the first boss, I died like 12 times, if not more. That boss, it felt like I wasn't doing any damage, and that's basically just another area. The first boss of Act 2, the first boss after the last boss, where I had basically no problem. In Act 3, yeah, I died many, many times. Most bosses were okay after figuring out the mechanics, but one in particular was insanely difficult, and that's Blackjaw, because that son of a bitch has an aimbot, like a true and proper aimbot, and it doesn't feel great. Just watch this. When it comes to gear drops, there's 4 different types of gear. There's white gear, you know, the common ones. Then there's blue, the magic items. There's yellow, rare, very rare items. And then there's orange ones or brown ones. Those are the uniques. White items, the common items are, well, very common. These are great if they have sockets or are superior, or both, meaning that they have sockets where you can put in runes, or they already have the quality upped from the get-go. You can salvage these items to get blacksmith's whetstones, arcanist's etchers, armorer's scraps, or artificer shards, or they are great for base crafting. When you use these items to craft, you don't have to invest that much more into them after you have gotten a good item. And as of right now, crafting really seems like the only viable way to get better gear or valuable gear, but we'll get to that later. Now, the blue items, the magic ones, they are not as common as the white ones, but they still drop very frequently, meaning you can be decked out in blue in no time. Mostly these aren't like really good items, or they don't have really good stats. I was lucky enough to get like 2 decent items with at least 2 modifiers. The blue items can have 1 prefix modifier and 1 suffix modifier, and these can be improved further down the road by crafting, but again, more on that later. Now, yellow items, these are the rare items. And yes, I know it comes from the name rare, but they feel really, even extremely rare in the early game. I have waited, I cannot even tell you how long I waited for my first yellow drop. Even with my first yellow drop, I was really excited, but it was a piece of gear that my character couldn't use, so it was useless. Yeah, most of the rare drops actually are not usable by your character. Doesn't feel great. And to be completely honest, I have gotten most of my rare gear through crafting or through buying it from another players. And as last, you have the orange items. Those are unique items. They have handcrafted modifiers and they can be really good. Like, they can be great. Yes, they are in the game, but they are extremely rare. Like, extremely rare. I got a few of them, but most of them are not for my class, either for the ranger or the mercenary. I got 2 so far that are amazing, at least for me. So first we have this. So this piece of item can add up to 30 to dexterity, up to 70 to evasion rating, and it increases evasion rating by 100% when you're on full life, as well as it gives you 10% movement speed when you're on full life, which for trying to level up your character, it can be actually really good. And second is this ring, which adds quite a lot to lightning resistance. It gives you intelligence, increased mana, regeneration rate. What it does, it converts 100% of the lightning damage into cold damage. Plus it increases the freeze buildup, which means that if you're playing lightning like I am and you use this ring, instead of shocking the enemies, you're gonna be freezing them. Can be good. It's sort of a damage trade-off, but depends on what you want to play. And yeah, I have gotten a bunch of different uniques, but those I cannot use by my character. The unique items seem like they are only made like for the base items, because every single item has like the base, then advanced and expert version. They are pretty much the same item, but the requirements and the possible modifiers on them are different. That's how you get stronger, better gear. When it comes to gear, it is one of the most important things you have in an ARPG, one of the main ways how you can get stronger, and the gear just does not seem that great right now. It's really hard to get, it doesn't drop that frequently, and trying to craft up an item, it takes a lot of currency, a lot of resources, and you are not even guaranteed that you're gonna get anything good. So you can sink a lot of currency in it, and still it's not gonna be better than what you already have. There is a lot, and I mean a lot, of currency in Path of Exile. Let's start with the easiest one, which is gold. Gold can be used for a bunch of different things. Mainly, you can use it for buying gear from the merchants or vendors, which do restock every single time you level up. So always be sure to check them, because there can be actual valuable things to buy. It is a good way to get decent items if you're lucky enough. I bought a great blue item from a merchant. I upgraded to yellow on my mercenary, and then I was using it from like level 10 all the way until level 40. So yeah, it's important to check them. Here you can see that I found a really good bow for my ranger. So I bought it, equipped it, and suddenly my damage has pretty much doubled. Now, if you haven't played Path of Exile 2 before, or if you're on your first character, you're most likely not gonna have enough gold to buy any items. On your first character, you pretty much have to stick with what you actually get from the drops. In my opinion, the gold drops are a bit too low. Yes, they haven't boosted recently, but it still feels like just to buy one item, you have to clear like at least 2 maps or 2 parts of an act. I would suggest a very small drop increase. In the early game, for instance, instead of 5 gold, give 6 gold, which with 100 drops, it results in, 600 gold instead of 500. And in the grand scale of things, it will actually be a major boost. The next best thing you can use gold for is gambling. Yes, there is gambling in the game. Buying items of a gambling merchant is gonna always guarantee you at least a blue item. It's not a great way to upgrade gear. You can be lucky. On my first try, I have gotten like amazing boots, and I have been using them, I think, ever since. Every single item I bought afterwards, it was all blue items with 1 modifier, and all of them were shit. You can also use gold to respec your passive skill tree. Basically what you do is you pay gold in order to remove a skill point that you can then reallocate anywhere else. So as far as I know, the cost of respecking actually scales with your level, which should make it really, really expensive. I'm not sure if it has been changed, but I've been able to respec a lot of my skill points. It actually did not cost me an arm and a leg. It'd be great if, at least in early access, we'd get very low cost possibility to respec the skill tree in order to experiment with different builds. Next up, you can use it for a currency exchange. It's not like you can buy currency with gold, but you can exchange currency with other players. On an open market, you always pay a small gold fee, depending on what you actually want to get, and gold itself cannot be traded. Then you have orbs and shards. As you have seen in the beginning of the video, there is a lot, and I mean a lot, like around 30 different orbs and shards, which are generally used for crafting and trading. There is an interesting thing with orbs. If you go and sell a stack of, let's say, orbs of augmentation, you're gonna get 30 gold for them, which would logically mean 1 orb of augmentation is equal to 1 gold. Well, if you split them up and you sell 1 orb of augmentation, you still get 30 gold. So if you're running along on gold and you have a lot, and I mean a lot of orbs of augmentation or some orbs, you can always just split them up, make a bunch of money. Last but not least, you have catalysts, distilled emotions, essences, omens, soul cores, runes, and so on and so on. There is way too many to list. There's many videos on currency in Path of Exile. Just go watch those. If I wanted to make a video about like all of the currency, it would probably be like an hour and a half. Crafting is driven by currency. Now you already know what currency is. Basically you spend orbs on items to modify them. You can add, remove, or reroll affixes or the stats. Basically they are all dependent on what you use and on the type of the item. You can add sockets, for instance. You can have 1 for one-handed weapons and gear, 2 sockets for two-handed weapons and for body armor. You can put runes or soul cores in sockets to further improve the item, giving it further resistances, increased damage, whatever it might be. You can also add these sockets with Artificer's orbs. The items that drop and you cannot use or don't want to use, you can either keep and sell, or you can disenchant them. Disenchanting a magic item gives you 1 transmutation shard per item. Disenchanting a yellow rare item gives you 1 or 2 regal shards. Basically, if the item has 1 up to 5 affixes, it gives you 1 regal shard. If it has all 6, then it gives you 2. As already stated before, if you salvage a targeted item, you gain artificer shards. If you salvage a superior item, in case of armor, you get armor scraps, and in case of weapons, you get either blacksmith's whetstones or arcanist's etchers. In addition to orbs, to craft up an item you can also use essences. Essences basically turn the item into a magic item or rare item with a guaranteed stat. It kind of removes a little bit of the RNG. So what you can do is you can take a white item, use an essence of life for instance, on it, and it's going to turn it into a blue item with a guaranteed life modifier. Then you have greater essences where it does the same thing. It upgrades the blue item into a yellow item with a guaranteed modifier of that specific essence. What can be useful for crafting as well are omens, which basically modify how different currencies behave. Some of them, most of them I think, because the full list of omens is still undisclosed. They're going to be really important in late game crafting. There are some omens that have nothing to do with crafting. One of them is for instance the omen of amelioration, I guess. While this item is active in your inventory, when you die, it prevents 75% experience loss, which can be huge trying to level up your character. There's also a omen of resurgence, which basically, when you reach low life, this omen basically regenerates all of your health, mana, and energy shield. These can be really useful when trying to level up your character, and the other omens, they are very useful when you're trying to craft up a good item. And you sort of want to have control over what the item could be, because otherwise it is complete RNG. I don't think there is a better way to explain how I feel about crafting than watching a little bit of an Asmongold's video.
We're looking for spirit. This is 39 spirit. Mine's 43 spirit. What do you guys think? Should I try to roll this? I'm going to do it because I think people want to watch that. So we're going to go ahead and add a second augment onto this. If it's not good, we're just going to put it in the back. That's really good. That's really good. All right. All right. All right. Okay. Fuck. Fuck. We're gonna do one more. Use a Chaos Orb? No. It's 25% chance. One bad stat doesn't make a bad item. This has 3 bad stats. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna use a Chaos Orb on it. There's a 40% chance that I get a really good item. Oh, come on! Oh, fuck!
Right now, the overall crafting feels bad, because you can have a decent item, you put an Exalted Orb on it because you want to get that one good modifier, and suddenly it's fucked. No better way to say it. It is supposed to be the main way to get powerful gear. Not only is it full-on RNG, it's also the fact that the currency drops are scarce. Like, there's way too little Exalts and Chaos Orbs, not to mention Divine Orbs. Like, you can see that I have a different t-shirt, meaning I have put on a little bit more hours into Path of Exile. I'm currently at almost 170. Clearing T4 and T5 maps, I have gotten one single Divine Orb. Maybe in higher maps, those drop more often. I have so far gotten only one. To begin trying to make a powerful piece of gear, it just feels there's not enough currency for that. I do believe that it's better spent trading, because on my mercenary I bought a crossbow for 3 exalts, which helped me a lot. When I found a better one, I sold it for 4, so I made a profit. As everything else with this game, I do believe that it's gonna get better with time. The game is hard. It can be punishing sometimes, but it feels so refreshing. Quite honestly, because you can really tell that the game has been made for gamers, not for the masses. I know. It's supposed to be made for the gamers. Really, it's made for gamers. And that's great. Because a game made for everyone is a game made for no one, in my humble opinion. Not only is Path of Exile 2 reminiscent of Diablo 2, which is something that most gamers can appreciate, but the fact that GGG is focusing on making a game for gamers and not falling down the whole woke rabbit hole, it's not only refreshing, it's just plain amazing. Because, without trying to spoil anything, like the ending of Act 3, it's really, and I mean really, gory and fucked up. And that's why I love it. It feels like GGG didn't care whom they might offend. They just simply made a game they loved making. They didn't try to make a game purely for profit or to conform to modern society standards. They just made a game they loved to make, and it shows. They launched the game in a fairly polished or playable state, but as an early access, or rather a closed beta, really. Because they knew that the game is good, but it's not great. They decided that the game is good enough to release to the public, but not great enough to release it as a full release. So they decided to listen to player feedback. They decided to get help from outside, basically, of the company. They release patches with hotfixes, bug fixes. They are still tuning the game, and they are making it better to make it perfect. And I feel like that is much more deserving of respect than, if it was made as a $70 half-baked AAA title from a major unnamed studio. So, in conclusion, Path of Exile 2 is a really hard game. There is a lot to learn, like the game mechanics, the whole crafting system, the orbs, whatnot, but it feels playable and mainly doable. I personally feel that the game is much more beginner and player-friendly than Path of Exile 1. And yes, it still has a lot of bugs, a lot of things that need to be tuned, but it is still a early access. So hopefully, and it really does seem like it, the game's gonna get better. There's gonna be more content, more classes, items, abilities, etc, etc. Basically, right now we only have half of the classes, only half of the ascendancies, and basically half of the campaign that's still coming. There's gonna be much more. And in my honest opinion, the game's gonna be free to play. Just go and try it out. You don't have to love it, but just try it out, give it a chance. I know I have talked about some of the things that are maybe not so great with Path of Exile 2, but even as is, right now the game is an easy 8 out of 10 for me. Why not a 10 out of 10? Well, not only because it's in early access, as I said, it still has some bugs that need to be ironed out, but if I gave it a 10 now, what am I supposed to do when the game releases as a full access? Give it a 15 out of 10? Well, I just might. We'll see. Well, thank you for watching. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. Honestly, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. This video has taken way too long to make for what it actually is. If you have any suggestions on what I should improve, what I should make next, just leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the dislike. Any and all feedback is appreciated. Honestly, thank you so much. If you want to see some videos in the future, leave a comment on what I should make. Hit the subscribe button, like there or there somewhere. And also follow me on Twitch. I'm gonna be streaming there at some point, sometime, maybe, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna start streaming again. Okay, that's it. See ya.